bias that you intend to see happen on price. Okay, so if you're expecting bullish DXY in the coming week, it means we should see bearish GU. Since that's what I'm talking about, I'll just stick with that. And then I'll also explain the possibilities of bullish continuations this week for the GBP USD from what I have on my chart. Okay, so let's make sense out of it. Go back to the, I like to start off on the monthly time frame. Okay, I think there was an area I was concerned. The weekly time frame will make more sense here. Okay, so on the monthly time frame, we have this monthly flip. Okay, this monthly flip point, and then we have fair value gap knocked into that point, right? We want to see price tap into that area. Now, why it makes more sense to us? It's because of the narrative that has been knocked into these regions, and then we have been bearish on the monthly time frame ever since. Okay, even if at the time we are bullish because we are trying to head back for corrections. Okay, what can we possibly see knocked into that area on GU on the weekly time frame? Good. So you see this HBI over here. It should be a nice draw on liquidity. Price should be interested in having this field, right? Price should be interested in having this field, which means that there's a possibility that this week still continues bullish. If this week continues bullish on the GU, it's also a possibility that the MIC may continue bearish on the DXY. Okay, it means that the DXY may continue or end bearish, trying to reach out for that our point of interest. It may not attack. Don't forget that those areas we marked on the DXY are weekly levels. Okay, the DXY cannot automatically or aggressively run into those levels. Okay, but those are the levels that we consider as drawn liquidity or possible basis where the DXY should react from. And then this is what we have here on GBP USD. Now, why do I think that price may continue bullish into the week for GU? Why we just try to race into that area on the DXY? It is because if you understand the formations of candle patterns, of candlesticks rather, a bullish candle must start with an open, low, high, and close, right? So if we must measure from the open and the low, or the low of the previous week down to this high, let's see how many pip move that was from the low down to the high where price closed. Okay, that was about 383 pips. Okay, if we measure from the current high to where we expect to see as target points, that's about 340, 350 pips thereabouts. Approximately the same amount of movements that the previous week gave to us. So yes, okay, it could serve for the whole week to see further bullish continuations. So instead of trying to predict, I just like to strike a balance between the bearishness and the bullishness based off what we could see. Okay, so it's possible that price does not just miraculously run into this area. It is possible that we could probably reject. I'll deal with that on the lower time frames. Okay, we could have some possible corrections that bet further push into this area, because if this week is going to be bullish, it needs to have, again, open, right, low, right, before the what, high, to see the what, the close. Okay, so the lows could serve for the corrections we are looking out for on GBP USD and all of those if we could continue bullish, right? So let's just deal with the story we have here, then we move into smaller time frames and try to make sense out of it. Okay, so we have these areas that are possible area that price could begin to sell from. I want to see this high tapped into, this level tapped into at 1.3178. If we're going to have a bearish week, okay, price should come into that. Okay, give us the open, then the high into that level, then the low, and then close if you're going to have a bearish week. But if not, we'll continue to reject and then mess all of this up to reach into this, because price has to feel this high volume inefficiency sitting here, okay, and then work with the flip that is not into that area on the weekly time frame. So yes, that's the drawn liquidity that I can see at the time based off the narrative that is not into the area. Okay. 1 minute. Okay, good, nice. So if you're going to have some certain levels of reaction, I would like to see price weak into these levels, probably in Asia, right, and then come into these points. When I go a bit more lower, I would deal with the narrative not into that point. All right, so this was another flip zone from the daily time frame, right? This was the daily flip. Well, the daily flip because we had this, and then continued to break further structure. Then this was an area of supply. We messed with that area, working with this area of demand. Price came back and then worked with the open close presence here, filled that properly, and then we had a move to the upside based off hidden basis. Okay, so this range is almost fulfilled. Okay, if we don't have need to clear this, if we are going to continue bullish, I don't see reasons why price should come for these lows anymore at the time until we meet the bullish targets. Okay, so it means on the daily, if we are going to be looking at daily ranges or immediate daily ranges, we'll be working with this low created here. So wherever price, whatever happens after Asia, and then price shows that we have a new swing high, we can now know we have a daily range we're willing to see price come back to. Okay, so if that be the case, I believe we still have bullish targets on the GBP/USD. Okay, the GBP/USD has possible bullish targets that we could be reaching for. But then I want to see, I would love, based off my expectation, to see possible corrections. Okay, I would love to see possible corrections on this new week. Okay, probably be a corrective week or just minor corrections. I don't know if we have drivers that could aid that aggressively. So we can, Tuesday creates the low of the week. If we have Tuesday do the push, Monday, Tuesday do the push into this area, it is still very possible that we could have the remaining rally if we have proper drivers into the points of interest that we have up there. Okay, so let's see the 4-hour time frame. So we can look into this small leg, and then see what we have possibly going on at the time. All right, so like I established that we have this low, right? And then we have broken this high. Okay, this was the high that was broken, right? So install that this can serve as a valid range point or as a valid swing low. If that's a valid swing low, then I want to see this low induced as the first point of contact. So I want to see price come below, induce this, right? It's going to make sense that we clear liquidity resting below this, because I think that's the closest draw. For those of you who are ICT or smart money traders, that's the closest draw on sell side liquidity at the time. That makes sense because it has to be inside of the previous range. So it makes sense if we can get that correction back into this point, mess with this area, and then work with this point. What do we have not into this area? Another untapped flip on the 1-hour time frame that could be a possible reversal point to aid the bullishness, okay, that we expect to see on price. Okay, forget these points that I marked. They're just areas that I would like to interact from if I see a narrative. Okay, so where's that 1-hour flip? Good. Let's play with that a bit. Okay, so if we had just this story, let me push up a bit so it's bold. All right. So I want to believe that for smart money traders, right? A ton of us had seen this as a grab on liquidity, seeing this as possible shift and then a break in structure, right? And then we are looking towards interacting from this area as possible area of supply. All right, to see further push down. Okay, so once the supply level failed, okay, it transfers power to the area of demand responsible for that failure. And then what else do we have not into that point? What do we have not into that point? We have the grab on liquidity as well. And then we have this high cleared. Okay, we have this guy sitting here responsible for that push. And then we have a hidden base just before the point. Okay, why I would not want to go into details of trying to be precise. It would have made better sense to see price react. If I had seen price react from this hidden base or this open close, okay, I would have been willing to consider this move as a valuable move and would not want to see price probably come to take this for now. But since that failed to happen, automatically that became my inducement. So with based off what I trade, I see this as my inducement. Okay, so there's a possibility that price could induce this. And then there's a possibility that price could even go lower to mess with these guys. Regardless, I'm looking to see a certain level of reactions into this point before if I get a rejection, the 4-hour rejection as a possible break on that area, then I'll look on the lower time frame to get confluences to take that push to the upside. Okay, because this is the liquidity from Friday, right? Last week, Friday, week before last, when we had NFP. Was it week before last or last week? 7th of July, right? So, and then this was London from 7th of July. I was expecting that these lows would clear that liquidity because we had early buyers who were sitting inside this area pre-NFP. So price just came back and then liquidated, grabbed liquidity from the NFP points in New York and then moved. Okay, we should still be able to make it below this area to fetch some kind of liquidity and then interact with this guy, or possibly below that for what we have here as the rejection block. Okay, so possible areas I'm looking to see we still have a flip nose into this point. So let's see how price relates with that area. And then I'll be looking to see buys or bullishness or any bullish narrative from any of these levels I've marked out. If we are going to continue to rinse all of this, okay, if you're going to continue to rinse all of this, then we may be willing to react with this area as a breaker block, okay? And other block simply is a change in the state of delivery, okay? And then if you want to see what happened with the delivery here, all through, down, last push aggressively pushed up. This was the last range. Price may decide to clear all of this here, sitting into this area as internal liquidity, okay, to make sense out of the area, then fetch more deeper into these points to work with the hidden basis or open close or whatever you like to call them. Okay, so based off whatever you trade, and then we have a left shoulder here, we trade classic retail or any other thing that has to do with support and resistance. Okay, so yes, we could see price come a bit more deeper. So whatever we have now is subject to change. They are just basic expectations, what we would love to see price do. Okay, so like I explained earlier, I want to see certain reversals from this point, and I'll be looking to what happens in New York. I'll be looking to what happens on Monday Asia session rather to see if I can qualify this high. At the time, I have a few sell positions sitting in this week's on gold and on GBPUSD at the time. I would love to see that push in and then do all of this drama before they push up. But then it's still possible that we can have GBPUSD make this run, okay, make this run into that, okay, before we have all of that play into these points, okay. I would love to see that happen. I would love to see that happen. I don't know if we have enough drivers to make this effect, okay, before further push to the upside. Okay, to be a very pretty sight to see. Be a very pretty sight to see. Okay, so that's for GBPUSD at the time that I can see. So if you're sitting at the point, if you're sitting here at the time for the sellers in GBPUSD, why they see a very valid position, it is just important that we know that there are still bullish targets to the top that GBPUSD may want to interact with. And then I always tell people who I talk to, do not try to be superheroes. You're a trader, you're a businessman, okay? Price gave us good narrative for a business at that point last week, Friday, to close New York, and then we were willing to deal, okay? So whatever price brings up as new business, whatever price brings up as new business in the coming week, we'll just make sense out of it and then see how we can make sense, see how we can make that work. But in the meantime, I'll be willing to look out to these areas. These will be the best areas to see the bullish correction happen from. This will be the best areas on GBPUSD to see the bullish correction happen from. So when price comes back into these areas, I'll have my eyes open to see my possibly a daily rejection or a 4-hour rejection and the breakout or whatever possible confluences that I can tally with this, regardless of whatever technical skill you use, and then feed that in to see if we can get bullish corrections to the upside. Okay, so I'll try not to talk too much. So yes, I'm expecting to see sell to buy models or possibly just continue with the bullish momentum. Very possible because we have bullish targets on the weekly. So you see how the previous week was that price failed to come back into discount levels for buys and then creating sub ranges on the lower time frame that price was willing to deal with on GBPUSD. We could have that continuation this week if price is solely interested in that buy side liquidity. We could have that possibility this week if price is not interested or if price has not seen sufficient liquidity to aid this rally down, right? So keep your minds open and then work with price, whatever price presents to us as a reactive trader, and then do not try to predict, except you have very good confidence and then you understand your risk basis, your parameters for risk, what you're trying to engage in and all of that. So yes, while there's a bearish possibility back to this point, there's still a very strong tendency that will continue bullish with the narrative to the upside, right? So I want to believe that's all I can see from now for GBPUSD. Expect Monday to bring a better clarity with the weekly story. Okay, I expect Monday to bring better clarity with the weekly storyline, and then we know where we have possible rejections and what we expect to see moving further into Friday. But at the time, this is all that price permits me to see. Thank you very much, guys. I would like to hand over to the next speaker.